We are driving from Roosevelt Lake, Arizona to Fish Creek Hill. Well, we're going to try to. Last week's video, we drove from Apache Junction out to Fish Creek Hill with no problems. So today I figured we would make the trek again, but from the north side. Now, I've been told this road is supposedly paved up until a certain point. So we're going to drive out as far as we can, and I'll show you guys what things are looking like and tell you a little bit about future plans. In just a second here, I'll get my drone up in the air and I'll set it to follow mode to give you a better perspective. The first few minutes of the drive started out as just a dirt road, but compared to most that I've driven on out in the desert, this one was pretty smooth. It wasn't a washboard and there was minimal bumps and zero potholes. I thought to myself, if this is what I can expect for the rest of the drive, it should be pretty mellow. And once I saw the pavement, I couldn't be more thrilled. This was the first time that the Apache Trail has ever been paved. Well, parts of it anyway. Now, we still have to see what the rest of the road looks like, but in the past, you always had to drive at a moderate speed and factor in the possibility of any sudden stops for things like idiotic drivers, wildlife, falling rocks, or any other unexpected surprises. But the fact that it was paved should save us a little bit of time as we traverse through the desert. Here's a map of the route that will be taken today. We kicked things off at Roosevelt Dam, which is right here. We'll continue along the Apache Trail all the way out to Apache Lake. We'll make a pit stop there and see how things are looking. After that, we'll continue along this primitive road section all the way to milepost 223. Now, this will be as far as I'm allowed to go because, as indicated in the legend, the dotted red line is for 4x4 high clearance and UTVs only. Clearly, I don't qualify to make it through there, although I know I would make it. It's still important to always be vigilant as you're coming around these curves. You might be a good driver, but you can't expect everyone else to be, especially in the Southwest. Taking your attention away from the road for a split second could lead to the most disastrous outcome. There are no guardrails on this end of the Apache Trail and very little shoulder room. The height of the drop-offs varies throughout the trail, but in my opinion, it's not the fall you have to worry about. It's all about what your execution is once your car lands in the water. The river that you're seeing in the shot is called the Salt River. It originates in eastern Arizona at the confluence of the Black and White River and flows 200 miles west before emptying in the Gila River, located just south of Phoenix. The Salt River has often been called the lifeblood of Phoenix due to its important role it plays in sustaining life in such a hot, arid, unforgiving environment. As I was putting this video together, I did some research to see if I could find out if the Apache Trail, going from Roosevelt Dam to Apache Lake, would eventually all be paved. I read multiple articles from ADOT's website and read a few news articles, but nothing alluded to future plans of that entire stretch being paved. As far as I know, according to a construction worker that I spoke with last spring, only certain parts of the road will be paved in hopes to make the commute out to the damaged parts more efficient. Now, if you ask me, I think it would be wise to pave it all the way out to at least Apache Lake. It would make the drive smoother for vehicles pulling boats, trailers, and especially for those big RVs. I think it would give drivers more confidence on the road knowing that they have better traction and can drive a little bit quicker, which would speed things up for everybody else. But you guys let me know what you think down in the comment section below. At this point in our journey, everything with the drive and the drone was going pretty well. I'm always a little hesitant when initiating the follow mode on the DJI Mini 4 Pro, just because you never really know how well the collision sensors are going to pick up obstacles. And speaking of obstacles, this is what came up next. Just pulled over for a minute to assess our situation. So there's power lines right there, and I'm not even going to risk
setting my drone to follow mode and try to bypass these power lines because they're just too small and I don't want to crash and I don't want to set the desert on fire, considering it was just on fire for the longest time and they just reopened this. So I think for the next, I don't know, maybe mile or so, it really depends on how close the power lines are to the road, but we're probably just gonna have to set up the camera on the dash and just hope that we don't get a whole lot of glare from the sun from the windshield.
One thing I've learned after being such a frequent user of the follow feature on the DJI Mini 4 Pro is that the higher and further away the drone is from any obstacles, it tends to maintain its speed when locked onto a subject. But if you're flying lower and closer to your subject, the obstacle sensors start to pick up objects in the surrounding area, and what the drone will do is it will start to slow down and you'll notice the space between your subject and drone getting bigger and bigger. The reason it does this is simply a precaution. Once the sensors detect an object, they automatically scan the area for a path with no obstacles, so that way it can continue on with the flight. But the more obstacles that are in the area, such as trees, posts, buildings, and telephone poles, it has to go slow enough to be able to detect those objects while simultaneously search for a path with no obstructions. So the more room you can put between your drone and the subject, the better.
Off in the distance there, we have Apache Lake. Cannot wait to get down there. Maybe grab a drink and a bite to eat if they have anything open. But here's a boots on the ground look at what you can expect if you're coming out to the Apache Trail from Roosevelt Lake. Caution, primitive road, no trailers, four-wheel drive and UTVs only, except authorized vehicles. 6 miles ahead, turnaround. So that's going to be as far as we can go, but I'll give you guys a first-hand look of where the turnaround is, in case you do want to come out here and see how far you can go. But I'm hoping we can make it to Fish Creek Hill, because I would love to get some more drone views of trucks coming up and down the hill.
It seemed to be a pretty slow day out at Apache Lake, but then again, it was a Tuesday. I saw a few people fishing, and other than a few people walking in the water to cool off, nothing too exciting was going on, so I figured this would be the perfect time to test out my RC Jeep Cherokee Rock Crawler.
Alright, primitive road. We should be able to make it the 6 miles. If we can't, well, that sucks. But there's only one way to find out.
These next few miles, I'm gonna level with you, I was extremely anxious. I haven't been on this part of the Apache Trail since 2019, and back then, this part of the road wasn't that bad. But after being closed off for all these years, I didn't know what to expect. I had heard from other drivers that it's not that bad and it's a pretty smooth ride, while other people had mentioned it's a washboard on certain parts, and you have to take it slow to avoid potholes and large rocks on the road. And after doing this drive, I can certainly say it was about a 50-50. And for anyone wondering if you'll be able to make it out this far in your car, let me enlighten you and say if I can make it out here in a Hyundai Accent, you probably won't have any trouble either. Unless, of course, you're driving a low clearance Honda Civic with a spoon engine, NOS, and a Motec system exhaust, then you might have some trouble.
We have finally made it to Fish Creek Hill, and we made it in my Hyundai Accent. All things considered, that road was not that bad. A little bumpy at times, but not that bad. Of course, you got Fish Creek Bridge up the road about a half a mile or so. I'm still debating if I want to go over there. I was there just, 2 weeks ago? And I'm guessing not a whole lot has changed. It did look like there was a storm brewing near Roosevelt Lake. Lots of clouds, and you can kind of see it gets a little darker over there. We probably won't be out here too much longer because I don't want to get caught in the storm on the way back, because that is where having a vehicle like this out here is not a good thing. So peaceful out here. It is a Tuesday afternoon too. Not a whole lot of traffic out here. Look how massive these canyon walls are. Not a single drop of water. It's so spectacular when you come out here when it's raining, but at the same time it's also not. But if you do, these little black spots right here make little waterfalls. It's where the water pours off the rocks, and you get some pretty cool waterfalls out here. Now we're gonna make our way back. I think I have like 4 or 5 drone batteries left, so I can show you guys the views of the road from the drone on the way back. And hopefully we can beat this storm. Those clouds are getting pretty dark. So there is definitely a storm a-brewing over there. I just can't tell if that's on the other side of Roosevelt Lake or on the side that we're on. I think it's on the other side. If we're lucky, we'll miss it.
If anybody watching has ever traveled from Roosevelt Lake to Apache Lake or even all the way up to Fish Creek Hill, feel free to share your memories with us in the comments section down below. I really do enjoy reading your stories. It amazes me as to what people would drive and tow out on this dirt road. The fact that only 5 years ago people would take their RVs up and down Fish Creek Hill blows my mind. And it's always fun to read the stories about people's spouses getting sick or chewing them out as they would drive up and down Fish Creek Hill. It's stories like these that you're not going to find online. It's also a great reminder of how delicate this road is and how fortunate that we are to be able to drive on it once again. Just a quick disclosure here in case there's that one person who thinks I'm speeding on this road. I am not actually going this fast. I was probably going around 25 miles per hour in most of these shots. I simply sped up the footage to showcase the majority of the drive in a more time-efficient manner. Always follow the speed limit and don't pull any of that Fast and Furious Tokyo drift crap.
We finally made it back to Roosevelt Lake, Arizona. And in one piece, no bumps or bruises. I mean, there is an insect massacre on the front of my car, and my car is pretty dirty. But other than that, we made it back. Got the big suspension bridge here. Luckily, we didn't run into the storm because that's further up there than what I thought. But I would bet anything Payson is just getting pounded right about now. Or no, maybe not Payson, but young Arizona is getting pounded.